future of the profession is becoming extremely competitive, and as such, one has to do more preparation for the competitive stage that is out there in the industry. The world has become more brand orientated now, and in order for you to make a mark, you have to get out of the blocks with maximum force. You have to hold your farm around the corner. Then you have to get into full stride. You can't go any faster. And the biggest challenge that many companies will face as a business is learning how to maintain their form.
I think the role of the architects are twofold, because on the one hand, they have to be designing for longevity. So they have to have that classical element of architecture that can stand throughout the years, i.e. a Frank Lloyd Wright or a Le Corbusier. Okay, so we're looking at, and if you can throw in Frank Gehry, fine, right? So you need that classical training to put your stamp on any structure so it can last for decades. You also have to be looking at present trends at the same time. So we're now going through the COVID lifespan, and it has spared no industry, architecture no different.
Well, the role of architects are really important, especially when you look on trends internationally, and, gone are the days where you just put together a plan and, you slap, 4 walls together and put together a building. So now people are traveling more, become more knowledgeable about architecture, how things look. So now in a more competitive environment where you have to be competing now with other developers, you really have to have a very, very good product, and the architect's role is really to ensure that that product can be, put together and it's aesthetically pleasing.
Architects play a very, very important role in the built environment in Jamaica, in the Caribbean, all over the world. And the emphasis now on, the environment and the younger folks with their different tastes in terms of what they desire, and just catering to what the needs are in terms of housing, space in terms of working, recreational space. Architects are just important in all aspects of our environment.
Well, presently I'm a lot into real estate, and when you think of what you want to present to your clients, an architect is very integral, because you have to know when to go modern, when to keep it retro, and how to mix it. And you have to sit, everything is planning now, and the architect is very important in doing that.
Well, technology is a good marketing tool for architects. Hence, why I said that, brochures, 3D renderings. You have so many different technology that you could use to market for your clients.
Technology does impact it greatly, architecture. I remember a few years ago, the transition where some architects who were not open to technology, or because they were from another era, the difficulty in responding very quickly to the demands, not only that is made of the client really, but things that's happening around them in the environment, and became very frustrating. Now you find that with technology, architects are more open to continue to allow the building and whatever they're designing to evolve. They are very responsive. It does not create the frustration it used to when a change is required and so forth. So it has played a great role, and it will continue to do so.
Technology in this day and age is very important in not just architecture, but in every industry across the board. And as it relates to architecture, working with firms that are, have younger architects, they're more technologically savvy. You know, I personally have a very hectic travel schedule, and you know, the architects that we work with now, it's very important for us to be able to set up video conferencing and you know, be able to communicate electronically, you know, regarding projects. And also, you know, when a building is being designed, you know, you can see the blueprints, you can, you know, look at structures that are developed to highlight the project. But it's very, very important, for example, 3D renderings. You can, you know, take a walk through the building, you know, get a good look and have a feeling of what the end product will be like.
With technology now, just by looking at a drawing on the computer, I think you probably just do the drawing and you can just select a feature to say 3D, and right away you can see everything coming to life. And that in itself sort of tells you what the finished product is like. But the technology has gotten to that level where in no time the architect can show you, you know, as I recall it, I would say a mock-up. And pretty much, you know, even the very tree that you could plant here and, you know, a little man running here and there. Simple. I'm just speaking because of just using layman language, what it going to look like. This is what we want. This is how I want to walk into the place. This is the color of the place. And the technology has gone to that level now. We're no longer having to sit in this big table with this parchment and paper looking thing that you cannot understand, you know? So trust me, the technology has gotten to a new level. It's really, really helpful.
They must come with technology. It's key now because everything is moving so rapidly. I mean, even when we look at interior design, I know we're talking at architecture, interior designers now have a totally different spec this week than they did last week on how to build out interiors as far as height of partition and how many sanitation stations. So it's a very fluid thing, and if you don't have technology to quickly adjust to the different specs, then you're going to have an issue. I think that for anybody to rise out of what's happening now, there's going to need a lot of collaboration, right? And so if you have that winning team where you have the winning interior designer and, you know, the various components, because interior designers now have a totally different mandate. You may not know it, but collaboration, you know, for them to say, okay, this is what we're requiring, and then you can then design based on this new requirement. So it's really fluid. It needs a lot of collaboration. It needs a lot of thinking outside the box, because a lot of the concepts that you're going to come up is new. Nobody has ever designed for pandemics in mind. So I think that is going to be crucial, because what I believe is going to happen is that certain professions in the building team are going to have certain designations to say that, you know, it's not just an environmentally friendly building like a LEED building. It's going to say, well, you meet all the sanitation COVID 2020 regulations. You're going to need a certification for that. You're going to need another certification for social distancing, another one for, you know, plumbing requirements. So the stronger the team that can collaborate and have all these certifications, I think they will come out, because a lot of the foreign multinationals, when they come down to select an architect, they're going to want to know that those architects are certified for the current requirement for the COVID period and beyond.
Architects are always relevant. I mean, we're always evolving, changing, so we need them.
You know, when you look on, for example, in North American market, and you look how development is done, you see the architects, the architectural firm, as a matter of fact, take a more leading role in terms of, you know, the development and, you know, what are the trends there in the market, and based upon these trends, you know, what is a good description of what the future will look like. Because when you're putting together architectural plans, you're going to build a building. You know, this building is expected to be, you know, there for 50 years or more. So if you're today anticipating what something should look like 50 years from now, taking into consideration what are the the trends now? What are the tastes are like now? You know, we would like to see the architectural firms take a greater lead in that, and not just, you know, take cues from the developer. Developer say, hey, I want to do a Spanish themed apartment complex, or you know, a modern looking commercial building. It's more the architectural firm should, you know, come with concepts and say, you know, Cygnus as a developer, I have this concept which I'd really like to see develop, and then we could partner with these architectural firms now. And our role as financier go together with the architect's role as a design professional, and you know, we can work well together in a partnership to deliver on these projects.
Well, they take forever. Notice the forever is drawn out. You know, I'm in the speed business, for those who know me, so you know, it's kind of annoying. I tell you what it is though, our system here of getting approvals is what really keeps things holding up, and I really can't blame the architects. They give you that mock-up in no time, to be honest with you. They really give it to you, but the approval process is a headache. They have very little control over it, and that I would say is a weakness. I cannot still attach it as a weakness, because in that case, it's as if when they send in their drawings, it has to be perfect, and nobody's perfect. So the time it takes for them to get back to adjust that, it takes forever, you know. I would say the strengths is that because of the technology they have now and your idea of what you want, sometimes, as I said, you don't have to get that big parchment paper looking at. You can get 3-4 designs sent to you in an email, even for you to play around with and say, change this color. That is what makes it interesting. It's like, I just want to build. I just want to take over the entire Kingston and just do my thing, you know?
Some firms, you know, they're from a much older type of architectural look and feel, and you know, just how their design is motivated is somewhat dated. You know, the discipline has evolved somewhat, where, you know, when you start the process, there should be like a master plan, conceptual drawings, detailed architectural drawings, and so forth. So if a firm is not really, you know, up to a level where they can, you know, go through the different phases, and you know, Cygnus, we finance real estate, and in some instances we're developers of real estate, and it's very important as non-core developers, as we're bankers, is to really ensure that the entire process is adhered to, and you know, go through step by step such that we can design and execute on a very, very good project. So one of the main weaknesses we encounter is just not being able to find architectural firms that approach things like this. So in terms of, you know, the good things that we've identified with architectural firms nowadays is more around, you know, the design philosophy. You know, when they're designing now, they're thinking more of, you know, from if it's a first world country, if it's New York, if it's Milan, Paris, you know, how would this building be designed? And you know, just dealing with Cygnus as a professional firm, they're a professional firm. You know, they understand exactly, you know, the language to speak and just how to get points across. So, you know, they're good firms, they're bad firms, and you know, we just have to make sure we do our due diligence properly, and we select firms that you know, can you know, match what we represent as a business.
I would say that the weaknesses is that you have some old school architects that are not willing to part their knowledge to the upcoming architects today, right? And the strength is that we have so many brilliant and creative architects coming up today?
Architects, like all human beings, they're different, and that is what makes this world a very interesting place. So we all take a part of our personality to whatever we do, and we can't be all things to all men. Some will have some strengths in some areas, weaknesses in other areas. And sometimes you're not really sure whether it's really a weakness or because of how fees have been driven down in recent times. There was a time in the past when professionals on a whole were able to, demand more in terms of compensation. But with competition and everything else, fees have been driven down. So you find that the kind of resources sometimes that a professional organization would like to avail themselves with, because not everything resides in a single person. So offices have become smaller, which simply means that you have less person providing the full phase of the services required. So we just have to manage with the various personality, and as a team, as a professional team, we all supposed to help each other. So if you're dealing with an architect who probably don't have all of the skills as you would consider to do with management, just make sure that there is somebody else on the team who probably that's their skill. They probably know nothing about design or can't design anything, but at least they are part of that team, and together you will all accomplish everything. But it doesn't all reside in everybody.
Well, they both go hand in hand. Performance, of course, a little stronger for me because obviously, due diligence, you want to check their catalogs and see what they have done and check with other persons who have worked before. Because there's also there's a performer, there's also the work ethic that is important. How does this firm work? Are they late? Are they do they give you what they have set out to do, kind of thing. Simple administrative stuff sometimes you take for granted. You have to look for that as well. Their values as well. It's important, even though you're the client and they pretty much will do what you want, but for the most part, they're going to guide you. And that's where their values will come out as to what they believe in, what they think. So it's important. I would say I would probably give performance 60, and because that's what you really use as the first thing. Because if you want a building, you want a building, and then that's where the values come in. But performance for me, 60%, and values I would say 40%.
Importantly, the work that you have done before somehow play into that consideration, but I find in recent times your fees and the quality of that human relationship, how well you can get on with the team, those are some of the important factors that a client will take into account.
Well, I really think it's both, in terms of philosophy of the firm, during a period in which, we're living now and we're developing real estate, you really have to look to the values of the architect and, what motivates them, what type of design do they like, what trends do they follow, is it modern, contemporary, etc. And also, their past performance is very, very important as like any other profession, you have to know that they can manage the work and they have delivered and have the level of experience to execute on the project.
I believe that the architect should get involved. I think it's an integral process, and if you leave it just up to the government agencies, they have one particular rule. You have the existing homeowners, neighbors who don't want it changed, and then you have the architects who want to propose something better. And you can't do that if you're not directly involved in the whole discussion and dialogue. So I think it should be an organic process, and I think the professionals should be involved.
Persons always believe that architects only do pretty drawings. That is, we just do sketches on a piece of paper, but that is literally 10% of our role. We take the design all the way through from the first iteration of a thought, and we take it all the way through to the implementation in the construction. And there are a lot of different arms and professions that are involved in the entire process. And the architect is the person that brings everybody together and executes the project. We manage the project from start all the way through to completion. So the architect is the leader of the team, and we head the project and ensure that the final result is more than what the client would even desire. COVID-19 has caused us to actually start to rethink what we have been doing. We think about social spaces, and we always want the best social spaces. We look at somewhere like Italy, where the COVID-19 virus spread very quickly. What that causes us to now to start to rethink how it is that we're going to design social spaces. We have to start to think about new materials. We need more materials which are microbial, materials that we can apply on buildings which would cause the buildings to transfer less disease. So this is the exact time that the architect is needed, where we have to start to really think about all of our social spaces and how we're going to put buildings together in a good way, not for ourselves, but for the entire society. We need to know that architects don't design buildings for the buildings to be a representation of us and us alone. We design spaces for humanity and spaces for people in general. And this is a very important time for us to know to start to rethink just how is it that we're going to design social spaces for the masses, and also how are we going to design those spaces that if something like this ever happens again, that it can actually slow the rate of disease and infection. Technology is important right across the board, not only in architecture, but what we have to really be cognizant of is technology is evolving at a very, very fast rate. And it's not every single thing that comes up that we can actually utilize in the business. So we have to think about it in a number of ways. We have to think about how each practice is different and individual. My firm is a very young, dynamic firm, and we have to think about type of technology that will best suit the way how we work. So we have to look at, we have new technology that will cause us to design faster, maybe design more effective. We need technology that can link the architect to the other professionals in a seamless way. So we need BIM technology is wonderful, but it needs to evolve. It needs to come to a point where everybody knows what that technology can offer each person. So we have to look at it in our workflow. We need to know that once we start a design, we can communicate with each person within our office. We need technology that we can communicate with persons outside of our office. The different professionals, the engineers, the quantity surveyors, we need technology that can create that link between all of us. The other thing that we have to really think about is once it comes to the execution of the project, once the construction starts, we need technology that will align each professional in a way that is responsive, that we can communicate wherever we are. Technology like applications like Procore, where it links everybody on one platform and we can respond immediately from wherever we are. If you're in a living room, we can respond. We can get the project going. The project is never stuck. You can get your responses if you are sitting down on the beach. You can get responses and we can keep projects flowing. So one that will reduce cost in the project, and it will certainly increase the amount of efficiency. So we have to use the technology that's available to us in the best possible way, and we have to identify our personal workflow and that the technology can work for us. We have to think about architects staying viable in two ways. One, within our own business. We need to maybe expand the type of business that we do. Maybe it's not just design anymore. Maybe we need to expand and become the developer. So we have to start thinking about our business as a turnkey operation. We need to design, we need to build, and then we need to sell. So we can create some revenue streams for us, for ourselves. So that is extremely important. And it's important, maybe not just economically, but it's important in another way that we really have to start thinking about. Architects are sidelined a bit, but we are being sidelined in a way. Planners and other different professions are seeping into the role of the architect. So if we start to expand ourselves, we need to take back some of that power so that our influence in society is relevant and persons can see and appreciate the value that we put into it. I can give you a little bit of a example, if I may. We look at Jamaica, and in recent times, the planning agencies and institutions have decided to increase the densities right across Jamaica, but it wasn't done in a way that was accepting to everyone. Had they involved the architect is a master planner. He is not only just trying to design concrete, but he's also trying to design something for people. So it's not just about density, but it could be about the character of the environment. So the architect will be able to put his interpretation, his influence into it. And then persons will begin to realize the real value that architecture offers and what the architect himself offers. So we need to stay relevant. We need to expand ourselves and show our importance and the necessity of the virtuoso, if I may, within the society. Every project is a relationship with the client and the architect, because a project is not one day, a project is not 2 days. A project can be as long as 3 years. It's a long relationship. It's a marriage of sorts. So there must be some amount of trust that the client has in the architect. So it's not just performance and it's not just identity, but it's both. The client must believe in us, must believe in what we can do, must be comfortable with our performance, and we have to perform. We have to be effective, we have to be efficient, and we have to keep their best interests at heart. A lot of our projects are developers and they want to make some money. So we need to be intrinsically involved and intimately involved in their project as if it were our own. So we have to perform and we have to have an identity that agrees with them. And whatever their philosophy is, whatever our philosophy is, we have to find that melting pot that is cohesive to both. And that relationship from start all the way through to execution and finish must be one that both parties, both the client and the architect, are willing to invest in. So we must have a trust. We must have a trust in the client, and the client must have a trust in us, and we must put our identity forward as well as our performance. The main pitfall I have with architects, we have allowed other professions to remove a lot of our responsibility. And when that happens, you find projects that run into problems. Architects need to be a little bit of an engineer, a little bit of a QS, a little bit of a developer. He needs to be a master of all trades. He needs to be a material engineer. He needs to be a financial engineer. He needs to be an economist. He needs to be a planner. He needs to assert himself in all of these roles, because the fact of the matter is that is what architecture is. Architecture is about people, it's not really about buildings. So we need to ensure that we take care of the people. What we need to do, again, is to stay relevant, and we need to bring all of those things back within our fore. So that we can execute our projects properly. We need to ensure that persons believe in us and they trust what we can do. They need to trust what we say, that we have their best interests at heart. So every project that we do must interact, must influence others as they're driving by, as they're seeing it. We must start to become the planners again. We must be a little bit of an engineer. We must take those roles back. And that's the only way that we're going to get back the prestige that architecture once had. I think we're getting there. I think the young generation, like myself, my young firm, I think we're getting there. We're taking clients on journeys that they never thought possible. And we need to ensure that we take that to every single client and keep on building those blocks to ensure that the trust is there and that we are able to deliver beyond what the client wants.
From hearing all the interviewers, there are a few things that I find in common in that technology has become a tremendous tool, and it's a great advantage and in some respects a disadvantage in that it has taken away a lot of power from the architect's role, and hence his fees have gone down, but at the same time it has made the architect's role even more significant, because once he's able to apply his creativity with the help of these technology tools, then the best is yet to come from the architect.